Okay, well, let's get going here. All right, welcome to Witchpolice Radio. This call is, it's a call. As everyone knows at this point, I think I'm doing these all remotely because of the pandemic, and I'm probably doing them like this for the foreseeable future. But I think this will be an interesting one because, over the course of doing this podcast for as long as I've been doing it, I've had all these ideas of, things that I would like to do given the time. And a lot of them involve, I should do a book on such and such element of the Winnipeg music scene. And of course I never have because I'm too busy. But my guest on this episode is actually basically doing just that. And it sounds like you've done a lot of work in preparation for this. So I think the best way to get it started is if you want to introduce yourself, and then we can take it from there.
I guess first I'll say thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
As they would say, a long-time listener, first-time caller. So my name's Nigel Webber. I'm a writer. I write for Stylist magazine here in Winnipeg. My focus there is writing about hip hop, mostly local hip hop, but I have written about just kind of general stuff. So yeah.
Well, and the way we first kind of interacted, I think, was it was a while back, but you had messaged me asking some questions about some hip hop episodes I'd done on the podcast with local rappers as guests, and then we started talking from there. So maybe if you want to give some background on how this book project got started, and then we can sort of delve into it a bit deeper.
Yeah. I reached out to you back in, I think it was probably in January or February.
Yeah, it was a while back, yeah.
Because I was at that point doing research. I hadn't started doing interviews, but I was doing research on this project. So I guess how I started this book. Well, I think without, especially since it's a conversation with you, Sam, I need to give a shout out to my friend Charlie.
Okay.
Who you knew in high school.
Yes, a long time ago. Yeah.
You guys shared lockers in high school, and so I never met you, but I've known Charlie for a long time. He's like one of my best friends.
Yeah.
He's probably the friend I talked to the most. So, and he got me into hip hop. He was the one who first got me into hip hop. So,
well, he was producing and stuff back in the day, right? Like must be like close to 20 years ago now.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it was him sliding me mixtapes with like, Main Source and, stuff like that. Yeah. Shades of Brooklyn and stuff like that I was like, wow, this is what hip hop is.
Yeah. That's super
so
cool.
Yeah, so that kind of off topic, but that deserved a mention.
Yeah, shout out to Charlie. Yeah.
That's awesome. So yeah, basically the inspiration for the book was, like I said, I'm a writer for Stylist, coming up on 3 years now.
Cool.
So last December, I guess it was, I was off work for a little bit, and was looking to take on like a project. And I'd always kind of, for stylists, been aware of, been wanting to do some kind of a history. And the last piece that I did was a sort of, like at that point, had been like a, 10 best albums of the 2010s, as like a last issue of the decade or whatever. Yep. So I'd already kind of been thinking about, at least recent history of it, and then I don't know, I just decided to go for it. And that was like I said, in December. And so I spent the first few months just doing research, stuff like listening to Witchpolice, finding out as much as I could. And then, started doing interviews late February and had like a total plan to do everything in person and, stuff like that. And so, like the first person I interviewed was DJ Bunny. I got a chance to like interview DJ Bunny in person, which was really great. And yeah, so I had basically I had everything kind of set up for that, and then the pandemic happened.
Sure.
Well,
that messes with everybody's everything, right? So
yeah, of course. So in a way, it's turned out to be as much as I'd love to be meeting everybody in person, having to do phone interviews, distance interviews, has made it a bit more flexible. I can do interviews at 10 in the morning, or I can do interviews at 9:30 at night. And 4 days a week and stuff. So anyways. So basically,
I totally hear you on that, because I'm doing this now too, right? And it definitely makes it more flexible, because I was going out to meet interviewees in person, and go to their jam space or their house or whatever. And this being able to stay at home and just turn them out fast like this. Not to say that I'm going quicker than I would otherwise on the actual content, but you know what I mean, right? Just to sit down, bang it out, distance. It's not the same, but it's cool. So I was going to ask you though. I mean, writing for stylists is one thing, but writing a book is a much more significant, everything about it, right? More research, more a heavy amount more work just in putting the whole thing together. Were you prepared for what this was going to entail? Because I imagine just doing the interviews alone, Winnipeg is such a deep and rich rap history that, I can't imagine how much time you spent just interviewing all of the people you need to interview.
Yeah, absolutely. If I look back and think about what it might have been, in the when I was just doing research and stuff like that, the initial stages, I definitely underestimated how big the history is, because I think it's important to note that I'm not that I'm starting roughly around 1980, basically right when hip hop comes to Winnipeg, when people in Winnipeg start learning about it, basically. And then coming up to more or less present, that's the sort of nebulous part for me a bit right now, is what the present chapter is going to look like.
Well, because it's always changing, right?
Yeah, but I know that So anyway, but I know now that this is going to be a multi-year process. This is something that I'm really trying to do right, and to do that, it's gonna take a lot of time to get through all the different people and all the eras, and then actually write, assemble the book, because it's an oral. So it's an oral history book. I think that's also, I maybe didn't make that clear. So it's going to be told through the voices of the people who lived it, which is important to me.
Yeah, that's really cool. But that means so much assembly, right? That means so much just taking the relevant quotes from each interview and kind of, it's like you're arranging an album basically, where the song order is important, and in this case, the order of who's talking and what they're talking about is obviously kind of the key to the narrative, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And I'm not super active in filmmaking anymore, but I've come from a filmmaking background and done a lot of editing in that way.
Okay.
Putting together documentaries out of just a ton of raw footage, where there's there are many different ways you can go with it.
Sure.
But yeah, I think the biggest thing is sort of, at least for me right now, because I'm trying to go more or less in chronological order, is to sort of make sure that the older generation, the people that were around in the 80s, who really kind of laid the foundation for names that we might know, the Peanuts and Corn and the Freakshow and Shades and all those sorts of people that are a bit more familiar to maybe a even casual Winnipeg rap fan. There are, dozens of people that were like the generation or two before that really
Sure.
sort of like laid the foundation. And like basically none of those people have had their story told in any way. And so like I feel really kind of like fortunate that like these people who, you know, now, or some of them are quite a bit older, are like taking the time and like trusting me with their stories. So
Yeah.
that's important.
What was the reaction when you approached some of those guys? Because I'm sure a lot of them probably haven't even talked about this stuff in decades even, right? I mean, were they surprised that there was interest from someone kind of, you know, from a younger generation in finding out what went on in that era?
I think a lot of people were kind of waiting for somebody to knock on their door, so to speak, you know, hit up their inbox, as it were. I mean, you're not the first person that's told me that they thought about doing that, also had the idea of making this into a history before me in some different way. So yeah, like it's definitely been on people's mind, and I think a lot of the people that I have talked to from the 80s era, especially, really want to be recognized.
Okay.
And a lot of them are still active, you know. Maybe, you know, I mean, pandemic aside, I suppose, but
Yeah, no one's active right now for sure.
So it's not all of them are in Winnipeg, though. I should make that caveat that
Sure.
you know, so
When, you know, now that you've done this and you've listened to so much stuff, and I mean, I want to get into your list of top Winnipeg songs in a minute, because that was really interesting. But now that you've kind of consumed this massive amount of Winnipeg rap history, do you think that Winnipeg has an identifiable sound? You know, I realize all of these people you're talking to, whether it's the Peanuts and Corn guys, whether it's people who came around, you know, within the past couple of years, whether it's these guys from the 80s, they're all sonically different. But do you feel like there's some kind of connection that makes this stuff sound like Winnipeg music throughout all of these eras? Is there a through line that kind of goes from the beginning to where we are now, even if it's not obvious to, I guess, a casual listener?
Well, I guess, again, I should maybe note that like I'm mostly focusing on I'm trying to go in a roughly chronological era, so I'm kind of only just getting to like the 2000s era.
Okay.
And I still have a lot of people from the 80s and 90s to cover.
But even just as a listener, right? I mean, you've obviously consumed a lot of Winnipeg rap over the time you're doing this and beyond, right? Do you feel like there's a unified kind of some element of the sound that makes it Winnipeg rap, regardless of which artist you're talking to and which era?
I don't know if it's a sound as much as it's like an ethos, you know, like, I think, it's more that people are coming at the music with the same mentality of, you know, of the do it yourself, of we're not going to get on unless we do it yourselves, you know, like unless we find a way to do the recording and put it out ourselves, like no one's going to hear it. So I think it's more of it's more that there's a sort of like a sense of DIY about Winnipeg that really kind of unites it more than like a specific sound.
Sure.
Or whatever.
It's the punk rock thing, right? I mean, that is, I think, is what drew me as a, you know, I was a punk kid and I got into hip hop through some of these artists like the Peanuts and Corn artists and stuff, because I saw that they were doing everything DIY, and I would see them play at a punk show or something, and that was just the like light bulb went off, kind of like, oh, this is the same thing. And I think what you're saying is like Winnipeg has that DIY aspect of it, whether it's country music, whether it's punk rock, whether it's hip hop, whether it's metal, it's just kind of a thing. And I've noticed that over the course of doing this podcast too, right? That like it's a thing that Winnipeg, for whatever reason, everyone is quite willing and able to just jump into it and build something on their own without necessarily needing an invitation.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. You know, yeah. I think to varying degrees of that, you know, some people wanted more industry sort of recognition than others. A lot of people were sort of okay to just do without it. But one thing I think that I've maybe found as I've researched more into Winnipeg hip hop is that there is a lot of different sort of the like kind of subgenres within hip hop are represented.
Sure.
You know, even kind of back in the day, you know, like there is the kind of peanuts and corn stuff and that kind of more independent stuff, and you know, Freakshow that are kind of more artistic, weird kind of rap. But then there's groups like Bonafide that are like kind of just doing, and like Shades that are just kind of trying to do like really straight up sort of rap. Or there's like different lesser known groups like, you know, like Moonshine Crew that are, you know, that just have like really like wild beats, and they just, you know, so yeah, I mean there's yeah, that I think is often missed, is that that there are you know, there are different sounds, I think, within the local hip hop scene, and then it's yeah, more of the sort of ethos that kind of connects everything.
Cool.
In my opinion.
Yeah, no, that makes sense for sure. I mean, I definitely, some of those artists you mentioned, you can like right away tell there's a difference, but they're still Winnipeg. Something about them is still Winnipeg. But I want to get to this list. I want to talk about the book a bit more, but you have a list that is coming out in Stylus that is the top. It was, I guess, your version of the top Winnipeg rap songs of all time, right? So what can you tell me about that? Because I was prepared when you sent me the list to sit there and open it up. I was opening up the file, getting ready to argue with you, and I really can't argue with most of the stuff on that list. Like, it's a really, really good list. So you seem to have covered off like all the stuff that I was hoping would be on there. And what's the story behind that?
Right. Well, I mean, like I said, yeah, like I write for Stylus, and I have for years. And yeah, I guess I wanted to find a way to sort of incorporate like all the work I'd been doing with the book into the magazine, just as a way, as I'm doing this also, as I kind of maybe alluded to earlier, I'm recognizing that this is going to, you know, I might not have a finished product for the book for like 2 years.
Sure, yeah.
But I want to build attention for it. I want people to know that this is a thing that's happening, that I'm working on it. And I have this avenue through Stylus, obviously, to do it. And then, yeah, the Free Press wrote that list.
It was top 100 Manitoba songs, right?
Yeah, I think they did 150.
Right, yeah, because it was 150th anniversary, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so I just decided 100, like whatever. And honestly, yeah, kind of just, it was like my dad had emailed me the link to the Free Press thing, and just offhand in the reply to him, I was like, oh yeah, maybe I'll do it for rap songs, just, you know, not even thinking about it. And then as soon as I sent it, I was like, yeah, maybe I should do that.
Well, and that Free Press list didn't have much rap on it at all, right? I think it had maybe a couple songs, 2 or 3.
There were, I wrote it in, there were 5 songs.
Okay.
Yeah, there were approximately 5 songs.
Which for 150 songs, and considering how big and how kind of influential the rap scene has been here, that's kind of ridiculous. I mean, I realize that they focused a lot on some of the stuff that like the Guess Who and all those bands that get constant recognition for being kind of Winnipeg icons. But I mean, I think that there was a lot of genres of music that should have got more space in that list. I know I complained about it online, but I complain about everything online, so I don't know if that meant anything. But yeah, the rap was like notably absent from that list, though.
And not only that, but like the important ones. they missed Patience.
Yeah, Patience should have been. Yeah.
Like I'll say yeah. So about the list, like, you know, like the Free Press made a top 10. Mine is not listed at all. Like it's in chronological. Right? It's in chronological order because I want the reader to recognize that, you know, it's each artist building on top of that one that came before it, whether they're conscious of it or not.
Yeah.
So that's how I wanted it to read. But if I were to make a number one, you know, if I were to pick a top song, it would have to be Patience. Like,
for sure.
I can't argue with that. There's no other song in Winnipeg rap history that has as much significance and is a like fucking banging song.
It's amazing. Patience. Still, like it hasn't. Like, yeah, it's aged amazingly well. Yeah.
Like, you know, only Jesus knew I wore Adidas as a fetus. Yeah. Like, come on. Like, I don't know.
And the video is just so iconic and then so groundbreaking too. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, everything about it. So the vinyl for Patience is the first Winnipeg Rap vinyl.
Yeah.
The video, although not the first video, is the first video to get played on Much Music.
Right.
Yeah, it.
Well, there's so many different styles in that one song too, and it just introduces so many, like, just that whole group of artists to. I mean, I saw it years after the fact. I can't imagine turning on Much Music when that was new and seeing that, and just that it would blow you away. Like, it would be just so different and weird and good that, like, I think it would be. Yeah, it's even now you watch it and it's like, this is ahead of its time.
Absolutely, yeah. Like in the last verse, Shazam and Sunil rap simultaneously with certain words rhyming or like certain words kind of overlapping. Like it's, yeah, they and that, you know, and that was only, you know, like that plus all the other, you know. I would also say that the Freakshow album, People in Your Neighborhood, is like, if I were to pick one album of all, you know, like complete album as like a project, you know, as a kind of a piece of work, that album, People in Your Neighborhood, is the best out of the history. Like there's nothing that compares to it. It is a piece of art. Like, I wrote that, I'll stand by it.
Yeah.
Like it like, if you know anything about rap and you listen to that album and you think it's bad, you actually don't know anything about rap.
Right. Well, that's maybe a good point though, is that, you know, taste in music is so subjective, right? So when you're doing a list like that, I realize it's not ranked, which is probably gonna help prevent people from complaining about it. I mean, but do you expect to get a backlash? Oh, you forgot this song, you forgot that song, why is these guys on here 4 times? Like, or do you even care?
Well, I mean, I and again, I kind of addressed this within the piece. Mm-hmm. I tried to be as thorough as possible. I recognize there are things that I easily could have missed. And there are things I know I missed because their albums I know exist, but I have never listened to them.
Okay.
I've never heard them, you know. They just never got put online. There's maybe some CD or tape copies out there.
Well, like what albums are you? So if you do you have white whales that you're looking for? Like these like lost albums you're trying to find?
Absolutely, yeah. So there's this group, The Last Crew. They went by a bunch of different names, but the name I know they released an album under was The Last Crew.
Okay.
The dude is named the main rapper and like leader of the group was named Louis. He's now in this group called Nomadic Massive.
Okay.
And anyway, Last Crew released an album in 1998 called Answers to Your Questions, entirely produced by Sunil from Freakshow.
Cool.
And I've never heard any of it. So if you have that album, hit me up, Gritty City WPG on Instagram, please.
How did you find out about it? It was just during the interviews and stuff, or what?
See, you asked a question there. Yeah. Are you familiar with Nardwar?
Yes,
Sam?
definitely. Yeah,
Well, like Nardwar, I will not reveal my source.
fair enough. Fair enough. That's cool. No, no worries. What else are you missing? Like, are there other albums that are floating around there that you've tried to get your hands
Yeah,
on?
yeah. There's not. There's another group from that era, from the like late '90s, called Battleship Crew.
Okay.
Um, and one of the main rappers in that group was called Black Alien Brother. And I know he has a solo album, and I know they have a group album. I don't know the name or the year, but I do know that those exist.
Cool.
I think it was the late '90s. Yeah, there's a few other things. There's this group Deep Mischief.
Yeah, I
I
remember
know
them.
I Yeah, I know they have I know people that have the record. I just like it's only on a record, so I haven't actually heard it yet, but I do know that yeah, that exists. So Deep Mischief is another one that could have maybe been on this list, but I haven't heard it.
Yeah.
So DJ Honeycutt, if you're listening, get back to me with a digitized copy of that Deep Mischief record.
Yeah, yeah. Are you going around actually collecting physical copies of these when you can find them, or are you just doing it all digitally?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, so like I bought the Guy I'm From Here album.
That album rules. I love
Uh,
it so much.
yeah, like that. You know, um, for his own reasons, Ness didn't want that album, doesn't want that album online. Um, so I had to go. I found a CD copy through Discogs, and yeah, McEnroe sent me some stuff as well.
Yeah.
Uh, and yeah, I had to get the Grubs Plague City album. That was another one I had to buy. So a little bit. I also should mention um, Sam from CKUW. He let me borrow some CDs from their library.
Nice.
Um, yeah. So
Oh,
yeah.
that's cool. Yeah, yeah. I imagine part of the fun is hunting some of this stuff down too, right? Like, do you enjoy that aspect of it, of hearing about these records and trying to find them, whether it's online or physically, or is that kind of more of a hassle than anything else? I feel like it would be fun for me anyway if I was doing this. That
Mhm.
seems like part of the enjoyment of it would be kind of finding these things and finally hearing them, and then just kind of absorbing it and getting a chance to write about it that way. But you might, I mean, your mileage may vary.
Yeah. No, I think it's uh, yeah. I guess if in the end I do end up hearing them, uh, you know, right now, if whatever I find out that like they're lost in the ether for whatever reason, then that would be disappointing. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's like a lot of these ones I haven't also kind of tracked down and talked to those actual artists yet, which I know I'll be able to. It's just I'd ideally like to have listened to their music before I
yeah, of course,
interview them.
of course, yeah.
So yeah.
Have you like has your kind of not opinion, but your experience of listening to Winnipeg rap changed over the course of this? Have you kind of found new maybe new sound, not new sounds, but new kind of inspiration in some of this stuff? And now that you have the backstories on a lot of these albums and a lot of these groups, is it a different experience to sit down and listen to some of these things? Maybe you've heard them, dozens of times before this, but then once you hear the backstory about, how it was recorded or who was involved, has that added to the your ability to kind of enjoy it?
Yeah, totally. I mean, always different in specific cases. So I
Yeah,
guess I'll give you a specific story. Like I've always, like one of the first rappers, like local rappers that I got into was Pipskid.
okay,
Just seeing him all the time at the Low Pub back in the day.
yeah,
It was just a time when he was really active. And yeah, I always liked he had this song that came out on People Are the Worst called I Ain't a Rapper, I'm a DJ. It's actually on my top 100 list.
That's the one with DJ Bunny, right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I always loved that song. And that's actually how I first heard about DJ Bunny, like way back when it first came out.
Yeah.
Maybe like he had him at the release show, or I don't know, or just from having it on the record. Anyway, so that's how, so I like that song. I knew about that song for many years. But when I was interviewing Pip, he told me a story about, because there's a line in the song about, you know, getting chased from the Albert by the skinheads.
Okay.
And then he told me this like really long and, you know, detailed story about how he and some people he couldn't remember got, like, he was performing at the Albert and there was some Nazis there, because the Albert used to like let Nazis hang out there in the 90s. And yeah, he was like, you know, and this was during Fermented Reptiles, so he's like rapping about like fuck the cops and fuck Nazis and like all this shit. And so yeah, they ended up like chasing him from the Albert to Mondragon. And so yeah, so it was like that that one line in the song is based on a very real, very scary story from Pip's life. But yeah, the interviews with Pip were often some of the funniest stories.
Yeah. Well, how many more people would you say you have to interview at this point? Like, I know it's going to be, you said it could take years to complete, but how far along, you know, are you like halfway done your interviews or a quarter, or what do you have left?
At this point, I've interviewed about like approximately 35 people.
Okay. That's quite a few, yeah.
Yeah, and like a lot of those, you know, and that's about like 60 interviews total, you know, a lot of people multiple times.
Sure.
So yeah, I don't know, probably, yeah, maybe a quarter, maybe. Like, yeah, there's going to be a lot of people. Like I said, I haven't even really started, like I'm only now barely starting to get into like the 2000s.
Yeah.
You know, I still got, you know, it's, yeah, because, you know, I'm always thankful for everybody that gives me time, but people like Ismala and Odario that have like really big, important jobs that take up a lot of their time, might not necessarily have time to give to me right away. So yeah, so like I haven't interviewed like either of those guys, but both super critical. Will probably take like multiple interviews, like multiple, you know, many hours to go through their stuff. But Odario does like 20 hours of radio a week.
Sure.
And like hosts the Junos. So
yeah, exactly.
I can't be like mad when he doesn't have time to be interviewed by me.
Yeah. Well, and I guess too, just the quantity of interviews you've done, I imagine that the fact that you've talked to some of these other people who were in groups with guys like that probably helps you get a foot in the door anyway, right? I mean, with someone who, you know, is kind of one of the people you're really hoping to get, if you've talked to 3 of his bandmates or something, you know, they can maybe put in a good word for you and hopefully make the connection that way. I assume there's a lot of that because Winnipeg's scene is so, you know, intertwined and incestuous, really. Everyone's played together and been in groups together and stuff, that I imagine that, like, you know, you interview one guy and then the next guy hears about it and knows what you're up to, and it might make it easier to get, hopefully, to get that connection made.
Yeah, it has been pretty natural, sort of like one person gets me to the next person for the most part.
Yeah.
I should mention that Nestor Windrush has been helping me a lot behind the scenes.
I believe it, yeah.
So yeah, he definitely deserves mention. Also, Rhonda Phenom has been helping me out quite a bit. She
Cool.
deserves mention. And Chris Knight is another person who deserves mention for helping me get put in touch with people. Otherwise, yeah, it's been pretty natural. Just like, you know, yeah, like you said, everybody is kind of connected in some way or another. So it's not super hard to find out, you know, who, you know, and some people are right there. Like, you know, some people I can just like, you know, I'll just hit up myself,
Yeah.
you know, just because like they're, you know, on social media and whatever, and they're right there, or, you know, or I already knew them or something like that.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
When this is finally done, I mean, I know you don't really have a timeline right now for when it's going to be finished, but what's the plan once you have all the interviews done, you have everything kind of compiled in the order you want? How are you going to be releasing this? Has that been something you've figured out yet? Is it going to be self-published, or are you going to approach publishers, or what's your plan?
I guess I haven't thought too much about like the publishing part of it, in part because anybody I've talked to in that world has been like, oh, well, we'll need to see like a draft or anything first.
Yeah.
But I should also give credit to Gil Carroll, who's my editor at Stylus, who's agreed to come on as the editor of the book.
Oh, very cool.
So yeah, Gil, a lot of people might know Gil from like Real Love and Living Hour, but he also edits Stylus and is just a super good guy and a friend of mine. So
cool.
Big
nice
shout out to Gil.
Yeah.
But yeah, so but in terms of publishing, I'm not sure. I think I guess at this point I'm just maybe naively, because I don't know so much about this world, but just sort of believing that like somebody is gonna be interested in this.
Sure.
Whether their focus is like on, you know, Manitoba publishing, you know, publishing just Manitoba authors, or their focus is on sort of music and kind of like music journalism. I have to believe that while there isn't a ton of book publishing out there these days, there has to be somebody that is interested in it. So if you're a book publisher and you like this idea,
right,
get in touch.
Yeah. Well, okay, maybe that brings me to something else then. If someone is listening to this and you know, maybe they have one of those records you talked about, or maybe they were in a rap group and you haven't approached them yet and they have some information to share with you or contacts or whatever, how does someone find out what you're up to with this project kind of, you know, at the time? Do you have a website or social media presence that they should be going to send you info or check out kind of the progress at this point?
Yeah, I think the best place to do that would be like I made an Instagram page. It's Gritty City, because that's going to be the title of the book. Right. Gritty City: An Oral History of Winnipeg Hip Hop Music is the full title. But so yeah, go to Gritty City WPG on Instagram, and yeah, there'll be updates and that kind of stuff there.
Cool.
Gonna be, yeah. So yeah, like I said, yeah, I'm slowly and methodically trying to go roughly in chronological order. So definitely, yeah, if you were active more in the like 2000s or 2010s, like don't be offended that I haven't hit you up yet. Like I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, definitely go follow me on Gritty City WPG. I've got these. I'm wearing one right now. Obviously,
yeah, I see that. Yeah,
you can see it, but
I can see it. Yes, the listeners can.
Yeah. So yeah, I made these shirts just as another way to sort of like help get the word out there. Shout out to Anthony and Eric and Feta at the mateshit.ca
Cool.
for doing it, for doing the printing, and Al Lord did the design. So all locally made, and
that's awesome. And by people who are involved in the scene too, right? That's even better.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, go on there, and there'll be. I guess by the time you're hearing this, the stylus will be out, and I'll be promoting the top 100 on there. Just posting about different songs that were on it.
Cool.
So
awesome.
That would be the best place to go.
Right on. Well, like I've said before too, I mean, if there's anything I can do from my to help out, I'm happy to help. And I think a lot of people will be too. I think, most people who have any involvement in the local music scene and are hearing about this are probably more than willing to dig through their shit and, find something that could benefit you. So if I have any records that you need, let me know. And I'm sure other people listening too, might be able to help you out with some of that stuff, because I know that I'm not the only local music hoarder in the city, so there's definitely a few of us out there, so for sure. And I'm looking forward to reading it when it comes out, and I know it might be a while, but it's a really cool project, and I wish that I had seriously considered the idea, because the more I think about it, the more depth and just really cool history there is in the Winnipeg rap scene, and it hasn't been documented. I mean, there's been a lot of books and documentaries on the punk scene, and some really good books and documentaries on the punk scene and the hardcore scene. But hip hop there's kind of a blank there, and I think a lot of people don't know, myself included. I mean, I've been listening to Winnipeg rap since I was probably in my late teens, early 20s, but there's a lot of early stuff I don't know about, and there's a lot of later stuff I don't know about too. So I think that a lot of people will benefit from getting that whole story, and maybe hopefully introduced to some new stuff, new old stuff. And that might encourage people too to re-release some of this stuff online, which would be great, because there's definitely some albums even on your list that I've heard the songs, or I know of the songs, or I know of the artists, but I haven't personally heard. And I think like you said too, there's a lot of stuff out there that just never got released digitally. So hopefully this will start people thinking about that, and preserving that music, because it's important, and I'm glad you're documenting it.
Absolutely. And it's also maybe even I'm maybe even trying to get certain people thinking of groups, I guess, of doing reunions.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah.
Like your brother, your brother in my backpack. I've already been working that one.
That'd be great.
So,
I'd check that out live for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if not live, at least just
at least a recording, right? Yeah.
Some songs. Yeah. Just start with a single.
Right, and see where it goes from there, for sure.
Yeah. So,
awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.